now we're on the panel discussion, how banks and financial institutions are making the most of AI. Well, this panel discussion hopes to cover on personalized customer experience, how AI and data analytics improves financial institutions. We're talking about the ability to leverage data and advanced analytics to deliver personalized solutions, safeguarding and building the digital trust. We're talking about understanding AI's integral role in detecting fraud, understanding AI's increasing impact on insurance, and AI can quickly consume and process a massive amount of data at an expedited rate. So we have with us our panelists out here. We first got Adam Bibiano, the Director of Solution Architecture for ForgeRock Australia, who's joining us, an experienced technologist specializing in enabling high-value business-to-business sales by breaking down technical barriers, linking product functionality to business needs, and building long-term productive relationship with customer and partners. We also have with us Velasco Aznar, the Chief of Digital Transformation Security Bank Corporation, Philippines. Well, he's leading the implementation of digital solutions, resulting in increased revenue, productivity gains, and cost optimization by transforming assets with the use of disruptive technology. He has impeccable delivery credentials in cross-vertical industries, running BPO, ITO, and/or digital transformation programs. We also have Lowell Campbell, the Global Digital Finance Specialist, IFC, World Bank Group, Philippines. Well, Lowell has the vast experience in payment banks, MFI digitization, banking transformation to digital, mobile payments, supply chain innovations, also the ability to advise banks, MFIs, startups, FMCGs on DFS strategy and implementation to better utilize the unique benefits which each organization desires. We also have Melecio, Valerio, the Head of Data Architecture and Governance, FWD Life Insurance Philippines. Melecio has more than 7 years of data experience with a perfect balance of business and technology with a focus on data governance strategy and data architecture and data visualization, which is helping the organization in digital transformation journey. We also have Sigrid Rom, the Global Director, Data Science and Data Analytics, Transaction Banking, Standard Chartered Bank, Singapore. Well, Sigrid moves to the private sector, gaining experience in several industries, namely FMCG, telco, and finance. She has previously worked in the fields of data science, machine learning, and visualization capabilities. We also have our moderator, Andy Chun, the Regional Director, VP Technology Innovation, Prudential Corporation Insurance Asia Computer Societies, Hong Kong. Well, Andy is a seasoned senior executive and a broad technologist with over 30 years of experience in a wide range of industries, including finance, insurance, health, transportation, and education. He's widely recognized as a top IT leader and an AI pioneer. Jun has a diverse background, achieving success in academia, industry consulting, and startup operation. Well, he has proven track record of leveraging technology to successfully transform businesses and create value while improving customer service. So, ladies and gentlemen, now it is time to pass on this incredible panel to join us on the World AI Show. Over to you, Andy, to take it forward with your panel.
Sure. Thank you, Bhavana, for the introduction. And welcome to the panel discussion on how banks and financial institutions are making the most of AI. So we have an amazing lineup of panel members with backgrounds in banking, finance, and insurance, and roles ranging from digital transformation, digital finance, data architecture, data governance, data science, data analytics, AI, from banks, insurance, investment, as well as digital ID. Before we introduce you to the panel, let me provide a backdrop for our discussion. So as you all know, AI has been making major impacts to all industries across the board, and BFSI is no exception. According to Global Market Insights, AI in BFSI market size is estimated at $5 billion in 2019, and is anticipated to grow at over 40% CAGR in the next 6 years, reaching $80 billion by 2026. That's an amazing growth. And the application of AI are enormous, ranging from improving customer experience, which we'll talk about later on, with AI hyper-personalization, AI chatbot customer servicing, automated processing with RPA, straight-through processing with AI fraud detection. Banks and financial institutes are leveraging technologies like big data, data analytics, machine learning, even facial analytics. And for investment, AI is used in fraud detection, algo trading, and anti-money laundering. Insurance companies are also heavily leveraging AI. For example, at Prudential, where I work, Prudential is called Pru Life UK in the Philippines. At Pru, we use AI throughout many of our internal processes, such as underwriting, pricing, claims, fraud detection, etc. And then for health insurance, AI is also used to improve customer health. For example, Pru has an all-in-one AI app called Pulse. It helps customers stay healthier with AI check, health check, and AI chatbot, doctor, and many more. Our Pulse app has been downloaded over 8 million times in 11 countries because of COVID-19. Many people are concerned with their health. And as part of our giving back to the Philippine community, we have been offering 1 million free COVID-19 protection to anyone first come, first serve. So with so much going on in AI and BFSI, let's turn to our panel for more discussion. So may I ask each panel members to briefly describe or introduce themselves and describe, what is the role of AI in what they do. Let's maybe start with Aznar, Chief of Digital Transformation at Security Bank Corporation.
Hi, well, my name is Cuau, and thank you, Andy. Pleasure to meet you all, and thank you also for inviting me to participate today. So clearly a very important year from a digital perspective, where I think we are living unprecedented times that in the most remote of imaginations, none of us could have anticipated. And as such, in the banking industry right now, there is a process of evaluation, because clearly we came into the year like every other bank, looking at a 3-year spectrum with growth and our plans, and the existing conditions are forcing us to revisit those previous assumptions and evaluate what changes we need to do. And in such, obviously, AI plays a major role, and I am collaborating with the bank in trying to identify what is the right implementation strategy for our IE portfolio, which we believe is critical from a time-to-market perspective.
Thank you, Cuau. Let me ask Lowell to share some insights on what he's been doing with AI and the World Bank Group. Lowell?
Well, thanks, Andy. Hope you can hear me well. Firstly, thank you very much for everybody for allowing me to join the discussion. Certainly looking at everybody with technical skills and all that, I mean, I sit here and I think to myself, oh, this is a STEAM company. I look at it from the perspective, so I'm with the IFC, which is on the private sector side. I work globally in varying markets, from Iraq, Palestine, Yemen, to India, to China. So, we obviously have to find a balance in between. And certainly from my perspective, in terms of the clients that I deal with, sort of post-COVID, COVID, even pre-COVID, is we need to look at it from 4 perspectives and how AI can actually enable that. So if we look at it from the perspective of digital front ends, so when the device, whatever it may be, is in the customer's hands, what is it that makes it interesting for them to actually want to use it? As opposed to the alternatives they have, i.e. cash. From a process automation perspective, what are those things that we can use from an automation perspective? How can we take mundane processes and do something with them? How, from a partnership perspective, how can we find innovative partners that can help banks who have regulated lending and liability licenses to actually engage more easily with the convenience players, whoever they may be, and then with innovation as well. So how can we drive innovation into the things that we do? So if you look at it in terms of the work that I'm personally doing across the globe, is the type of institutions, let's say tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, etc., is how does this become interesting? Because those are the institutions who would be susceptible to monetary shocks, interest rate decreases, SMEs going out of business, i.e. COVID, etc. So the impact there is huge. So what I'm trying to do from an AI perspective is trying to say to myself, how can we use this in a contextual way, but also in a realistic way to enable those kinds of institutions? Because often those institutions are not set up from an infrastructure perspective, whether it be data, whether it be technology, to actually sort of use the benefits of AI. So I take a more circumspect view of it, and I say, so how do I create the enabling environment for those institutions to better enable AI? To use AI to better their businesses, and what needs to happen in between. So for me, in the organizations that I deal with holistically, and I'm not talking about tier 1 and sophisticated markets now, how do you actually unlock the opportunities that AI brings?
Very interesting, Lowell. Thank you. May I ask Mel from FWD Life Insurance to say a few words on his role with AI? Mel?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone. So this is Mel. I'm actually the head of enterprise data management in FWD Life Insurance. So I'm focusing on data architecture, data governance strategy, and providing reporting management and data visualizations. So I would say right now we are in the journey of digital transformation, and AI will be a very critical part in our journey, because as our vision, FWD Life Insurance vision, which is the change people feel about insurance, what we are focusing right now is more of providing a best-in-class customer experience. So we cannot just do that if we are just relying on whatever information that we have. So the thing is, we want to make it faster and provide a good delivery service to our customers. So with the use of AI, automation will take place, chatbots, everything will be there. Entirely just to make sure that our customer, modern customer, will have also their modern provider that we have, which is our company.
Thank you, Mel.
That's my take. Yeah.
Thank you, Mel. Yeah, modernizing customer experience is a very important use of AI. May I invite Sigrid to share Sigrid's from Standard Chartered Bank in Singapore. Sigrid?
Yeah, hi everyone. Nice to all meet you virtually, and thanks for the organizers for having me. So I lead a team of data scientists and data analytics on the corporate side, so in transaction banking. However, we do use AI across the bank. So historically, we had a small team of data scientists that built a data lake that started under the chief data officer. And slowly, sorry, the light went off. And slowly we had actually groups of analytics building in the business. So my team is an example of such things, but we do have AI across the whole bank. So it started on the retail side, which is the most obvious one, where we can have a direct impact on how you personalize products, how you can also create revenue. But we also use AI in operations. For example, a lot of things which are paper-based, or even OCR, like on the PDF, can be structured, can be integrated into our data lake. We also use AI on the risk side. The risk team actually has a very, very big team of data scientists who look at how you can predict risk of our customers, how you can predict their performances as well, whether they are worth investing in and whether taking risks for the bank. We also obviously use AI from a regulatory point of view. So all the fraud piece is there as well, identifying potential sources of fraud. And finally, in transaction banking, we actually use AI for customers, for risk, for fraud across everything as well. So this is how basically it started as a central unit, but now we are really developing a more specialized units which have a focus on different types of customers and parts of the bank.
Thank you so much, Sigrid. Sounds like AI used throughout the whole bank. May I invite Adam to share? Adam from Forge Rock.
Yes, hi. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me here today. I'm probably going to reveal a bit about my age. I can remember, being in the security world since the days where we were sending out pattern files to viruses on floppy disks, and so. I've come, you come from that era. And so,
what I've seen floppy disks?
Yeah, floppy disks, remember? The 1.4 meg was the biggest you could have a pattern file. And it was
Never heard of it.
was too big, right? Yeah, deny that if you wish. So the threats have become, they've not stopped growing in terms of the complexity, the speed of them, how serious damage they can cause. Back then it was kids mucking around having a bit of fun. Now it's serious money stealing, fraud, state-based attacks. You name it. It's out there to try and break into your systems and cause a loss. AI is the next logical step in the arsenal of the mitigation technology. So what ForgeRock is doing in the AI space, and what we've been very focused on, is understanding the risks that are that there is to things like authentication and identity governance when it comes to access requests and actual access controls, and looking at how to take the signals that we're receiving and build a pattern that is build a pattern that allows for reducing the complexity and the friction associated with signing onto a system or authenticating, and understanding how individuals will behave, and looking at where the patterns of use step outside that, and perhaps learning from that as the situation changes. So I can give an example where if I'm logging onto a system every day from my office in Sydney, and then suddenly I pop up and log on from Los Angeles, all of a sudden that might be an unexpected behavior. You can build a system quite easily to make me do 2-factor, 3-factor, 10-factor authentication if you wish to log on here. If I'm a customer, I'll probably just run away because it's too hard. So what you want to do is balance that risk, and you want to learn that I sometimes travel to Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. Today I'm traveling to my living room, but in normal situation I might travel to Los Angeles, then London, then back to Sydney, and I have various different usage patterns. And an AI engine is able to understand that. And on the other side of the equation, you've got the ability to then learn from what type of access does an employee need. Every single time a new person starts and they've got a certain job title, then they get given a set of access credentials just based on a template. Do they still need that? So do we, I sort of have in my mind Homer Simpson's little duck pushing yes every single time the access request comes in. A manager does not have enough time to look at all the different things that they need, and so AI can help with all those variables and go, well, actually, no, you know what? We've been giving access to all these new engineers starting in Melbourne, but they don't use that system. Let's not give them access now. Or we don't give access to, we give access to engineers everywhere, but people in Singapore don't use that system. So now we can finally grain the access that is granted just based on understanding and training an AI model over time.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that, Adam. Okay, so we have a really diverse set of panel members from different sectors within the BFSI. The way I'm going to organize this panel is, I'll select a person seems most relevant for the question, and then other panels feel free to jump in if you think you have something that you want to share. So let's start with the first question. Our customers, of course, the most important for our industry. So let's start with a customer-centric question. Customer experience, or CX, has been one of the key contributors to the BFSI sector. And AI plays a very important role in improving CX. So this is particularly important after COVID-19 when everything is going digital. Let's see if our panel members can share some experience in using AI for CX. Sigrid, since you work in Standard Chartered Bank in Singapore, which has a large customer-facing retail bank, would you have some insight to share on AI and CX?
Yeah, so we do spend a lot of time on understanding our customers. So when you think about CX, and the best thing is about personalization. So if you want to personalize a product, you need to understand your customer. It's the same thing if you want to give a gift to your friend or to your sister or whoever. You need to use enough data about that person to have that gift. So you use their favorite color, what fits them. So you use all the information that you have about them to give them the best experience possible. So in the bank, we try to approach it in a similar fashion. So everything starts with the data that you have about your customer. So we did spend a lot of time centralizing all this data, making sure that it's in a centralized location, you can access it, it's clean, making sure that we can join and break the different silos across the bank, because a customer can mean different things. They can be using trading instruments, they can be using cash, they can be using credit lines. So for us, being able to break these silos and reconciling all the different systems is a bulk of the work that needs to be done for that. So then we can recreate that 360 view of the customer. So that's really the starting point, is really to have that data. So the next steps, once you have that data, is how does that data help you understanding at which stage of the journey your customer is? And so we put this back into the life cycle of the customer. So is this a new customer? So if it's a new customer, you will behave differently than if it's an existing one. If it's an existing customer, is your customer using specific products, let's say only cash products, or are they also using trade products? So is it an existing, a new customer? If the customer is already in the bank, is it just starting a journey with you, or is he very loyal to you, or is he about to churn? So according to identifying these different stages, then we can recommend different products. So based on that, the next step is, once we really know the profile of our customer, I can then find the best product. So if it's a buyer or a seller, the product will be different, for example. If it's someone that has been very loyal to the bank, I can also price some of the products differently. So there is a lot of really breaking down all the different profiles. And so both the part of the profiling and the recommendation requires data science and AI to really have this full mapping. And of course, in the end, we have to write with the relationship people to send some of those recommendations at the right time and using the right channel. So it's really an end-to-end work that we are doing. And the reason why we spend so much time on this personalization is potentially we can make a lot of revenue. And just to throw a few numbers, since we are all data people in here, BCG did a recent study and estimated that for every 100 billion in assets that a bank has, it can generate as much as 300 billion in revenue. So it's threefold by personalizing the experience of their customers. So it's really something that we emphasize and we spend a lot of time understanding.
Totally agree. Thank you for that sharing. AI in terms of customer experience to really allow us to understand our customers better, so that we could provide them with products and services that they most urgently need at this time. Any other panel member would like to add to the customer experience aspect of AI?
Andy, if you don't mind, if I could just jump in for a
Sure.
second. I think one of the interesting things that COVID has shown, and I mean, the Philippines is certainly experiencing this as well, is that there's been, if you look in the SME space or the MSME space, where there's been a fundamental change in the way people are now operating. So the brick and mortars have now become Facebook Messenger or Facebook retailers based at home in their barangays, wherever they are. The challenge now is, how do you unlock that potential? So how do you bring in the contextual commerce piece to try and sort of stimulate demand and stimulate use with data that you didn't have before? How do you then bring in obviously the conversational banking piece to these new kinds of customers where you didn't have it before? So I think for me, using sort of like unlocking these opportunities, which could be the next big thing in the whole MSME space, is, how do I now, firstly, as I said, encourage a customer to stay within their chat environment, WhatsApp, Viber, whatever it is, and do all of my commerce. So, Lowell, do you want a Coke? Do you want a red one or a blue one? I'll have a red one. Oh, but Lowell, that's Coke. I thought you wanted a Pepsi. No, I didn't say blue, blah, blah, all those kind of things. But because what experience seems to be showing is that the more people engage in, let's call it, in a social environment, whether it be on WhatsApp or whatever it is, either of those, the more confident and comfortable they get. And the more you can then learn what they do, the easier it becomes for you as well. So I think, for me, whereas, I may have a completely different ask to a Stan Chart or somebody like that, me in the kinds of institutions and clients that I deal with, at that more fundamental basic level, how do I start now learning what an unseen customer or an unseen environment is now doing? And I think that's going to be the opportunity to come, because I think once you find the right way to gather that data, your ability to interact with it using AI and the associated customer experience is going to be significant. So for me, that is certainly something that I'm watching quite closely, because it's an integral part of the kinds of problems that I'm solving.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting, Lowell. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, my second question is a follow-up to customer experience, and Sigrid mentioned a bit about that. Is the topic of personalization or hyper-personalization, the ability to leverage data, advanced analytics to deliver personalized solutions, could be a primary differentiator in the future for companies. I would like to see if our panel members agree. Maybe Mel, since you work at FWD Life Insurance with a lot of customer-facing solutions, could you share some insights on AI and personalization?
Yeah, definitely. So,
Great,
I mean,
thanks.
for AI, there are a lot of AI is comprised of many related technologies, some of which are machine learning, of course, deep learning, neural networks, natural language processing. And those are algorithms that we can use to classify and study data, identify relationships. And when applied to data sets, then definitely we can use that for pattern recognition, optimization, prediction. So right now, what we are doing is more on the customer segmentation approach, whereby it will tell you exactly which segment are you going to penetrate based on the campaigns or the marketing promotional campaigns that we have. Because definitely for every marketing campaigns, you need to focus or penetrate on the customer segment that is applicable or suitable for them. So with the use of AI coming from a machine learning experience, training, or identifying any patterns and predicting what will be the outcome for that, definitely you are actually penetrating the right customer for the right product. And that will also make the customer, feel that, hey, this is the right product that I need for now. So getting all this information, having said that, it still boils down to the data that you need. Because you cannot just run any artificial intelligence, any machine learning if you don't have the right data. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is before executing any machine learning algorithms or AI for that matter, you need to make sure that you have a very good data foundation. So you have the data that you can trust and run your patterns or your machine model for that. Because it would be very as in FWD, as I said a while ago, what our vision is how the way people feel about insurance. It will be embarrassing for us to communicate with our customers with the wrong data. So with the use of AI and with the assumption of correct data in it, then definitely we can have we can provide the best customer experience, the best-in-class customer experience.
Yes, totally agree with you, Mel. Especially nowadays, where everything is going to be, a lot of digital transactions with COVID-19 and whatnot. It's very important to really understand who your target customer are, and be able to do, digital marketing segmentation properly. Definitely don't want to push products to the wrong age group or to the wrong gender group, et cetera, et cetera. So that's super important. Any other panel member have something to share on this? Using AI for personalization, either digital marketing or precision segmentation.
Andy, I mean, I suppose if nobody's going to jump in, let me jump in here for one quick second again.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't want to be to dominate anything.
No.
I think in terms of, you mentioned so it's a hyper-personal if you want to look at it that perspective. But, I think we're going to bump into issues in some markets, not all, around data privacy and all these kinds of things, if it's mass data or aggregated data, all these kinds of things. But I think where it becomes significantly interesting, for me anyway, is that if I can, as Lowell, maybe I don't want to be included in batch marketing or in batch stuff, whatever. But if you can come to me and you can say, Lowell, I see that you, and I always use the example, I see you like Lifebuoy soap, okay, kind of thing. And I see you buy it at 3:00 on a Friday. How about I give you a personal benefit for using it? Or I'll give you a discount, or I'll give you a pack of 50 or something like that. So yeah, so you're using the data from a more personalized perspective. So I'm seeing value for me personally, and through that personal value, I'm saying, cool, I'm happy for you to market to me potentially, directly, because in South Africa, where I come from, there's some markets where you actually just can't do a lot of marketing, whether it be the cigarette industry or whatever it is. But if I give you permission on a one-to-one basis, that changes the equation quite significantly. So I think with AI and all these things that are now becoming a differentiator to what was there when I was a little bit younger, I now have the ability to see what Lowell does at 3 o'clock on Friday and come to you personally. So I think that in a way to start driving use of digital infrastructure, use of products, use of services, where you can touch one-to-one, I think that becomes quite an interesting use case as you try to drive the trust, as all the kinds of things that I mentioned before. And I certainly think that becomes interesting, but the data needs to be there. I have to have a way to get to you personally. I have to overcome data privacy issues, etc. So it's work in progress, but I certainly see some opportunities.
Thank you, Lowell, for that. Yeah, definitely agree. Using AI to create that relationship with your customers at a personal level really helps build trust. So very good, very good. Let's move on to another question. And speaking of building trust, one of the major obstacles in using AI is really building that trust with the customers. So we'd like to see if our panel members can share some insights on how to safeguard and build digital trust, which is particularly important after COVID-19 when businesses and consumers are pushing to go digital or virtual. Maybe I'd like to invite Cuauhtemoc from Security Bank to share his thought on the subject. Cuauhtemoc?
Okay, so this is around trust, right?
Yes.
Well, the way I internalized this process in the current context is, I think this is the fourth, thinking globally. I spent the last 12 years in London dealing with global digital transformation. So I think this is in the last decade, the fourth crisis. I can think of the, sub-mortgage prime crisis, in 2010, and that triggered a number of transformations in BFSI, because currently we needed to increase revenue, we needed to digitalize experience, etc. Then it was about the oil and gas industry when the oil dropped below $50 per barrel, right? And that there was also then created a wave of issues globally. In London, at least, I could say Brexit was a crisis as well. And all the work that generated in all of the boardrooms, because we had to revise targets, we had to look at the strategies, we had to tighten budgets. So that was a crisis of confidence there as well. And now we have COVID, no? So in that context, if I look at the positive, and coming back to your question of trust, is here in the Philippines, one of the things that I found most challenging when I arrived last year was aligning on the narrative of what we needed to do. And I don't think it's the same challenge I had back in London, or you would have in Singapore or in Australia, which, there are much more advanced markets. But here in the Philippines, there was a commitment and a conviction to the brick and mortar model, right? Because this is an archipelago, and we don't have enough infrastructure. So at a board level, it becomes a very challenging discussion, because you have differing points of view with ownership. With COVID, that has aligned the narrative and the agenda. And now we are all pointing in the same direction, okay? So now it becomes, how do we marry? For me, the question is, how do we marry the digital evolution of the bank in this context of the Philippines, and what is the business need? And I would argue that the business need for the Philippines market is building trust. Because when you look at data, when you look at statistics, there's this enormous potential in the market. But then you go back to, okay, how much risk are you willing to undertake? So we have to think of ways on how do we marry the digital evolution of the market with the with the consumer to build trust and helping that transition, and with the application of a portfolio of artificial intelligence tools. So for me, that is how we are approaching the problem and how we are looking at the problem. But it's we need to build the trust, because previously the consumer behavior that didn't want to use the iPhone channel or online, now is forced to change their behavior. So hopefully that gives you some perspective.
Yes, totally agree with you. I think that's crucial. And one of the things to build trust is for consumers to understand the technology behind the systems are trustworthy. May I get Adam from Forge Rock, because your company deals with digital ID. Could that somehow improve trust among consumers?
Oh, look, absolutely. And look, the comment was made about markets like Australia. I was surprised when the COVID situation started that I was seeing ads on TV about how to start your internet banking journey. You know, that was, I actually thought we'd, pretty much got almost full saturation there, but clearly there was quite a big part of the market that still needed to be educated on this. And, I've seen projects. I sat in on a project with I sat in on a call with one of the state health departments, and the number of projects that they've been doing in the last 6 months is absolutely astounding. It's probably 10 years worth of transformation happening in 6 months. And this is just moving at such a rapid pace, and it's not just the organizations that are changing; it's the people and the behavior and everything. So, trust is critical to be established with online channels. Because if I'm not going into a bank and being able to withdraw my money from a physical branch, then I need to be able to trust, if I'm using a mobile app or if I'm using an online channel that I never used before, I need to trust my money is going to be there. And I also need to be able to access my money in a way using methods that I understand. It could be using Face ID on my iPhone. It could be using a thumbprint or something like this, having a token emailed out to me and a 2-factor password sent to me by email or something like this, which is hard for me to do, might suddenly erode that trust. Yeah, and also another key part of trust is to build, is to take the customer along the journey of ensuring that they approve and understand what they're signing up for. So sharing of information between parties, helping them understand that they got the control over the consent that they're giving to the bank to share their money with somebody else. All this is critical for improving that level of trust in a ecosystem of your customers who have now suddenly been dragged into this digital universe, kicking and screaming. And so it's as I said, they never wanted to transact digitally, but now they have to, right? They're forced into it. And look, they're probably going to like it, but they have to go through that change. Change is difficult for a lot of people, and comes back to my original point of when I did the introduction of being able to take understanding of a person's behavior and other attributes that might be associated with how they typically use the service, and use that as a way of putting the stake in the ground, so that you don't have to reevaluate somebody in the 10 different steps that they went through every single time they log on. That's going to be too hard. The next bank is going to do it in a way which only needs 8 steps, and you're going to lose that customer. And so you want it to be a frictionless, well, maybe not completely frictionless, but enough friction for them to have a confidence that it's secure, but not too much to make them run away. And AI has got to be key to ensuring that, with an ecosystem of many hundreds of thousands of customers, all doing things slightly differently with slightly different devices in different locations, different times of the day, different parts of the world, that's all tracked and managed, and their outlier behavior is easy to identify, as opposed to trying to build really complex rule sets you know, this is certainly something which is right in the ballpark of AI.
Can I just say something quickly?
Yes,
just
please.
to put it into context, last year, 3 banks went offline either for a few hours or several days here in the Philippines.
Ouch.
So I was one night with, I basically couldn't get money out of my ATM, and I couldn't pay for parking. So, that taught me a big lesson in terms of trust and the complexities around this market.
Amazing. So totally agree. Having sophisticated technology to ensure trustworthiness has still to be, user-friendly enough so that customers don't find it a burden. So totally frictionless is one way, and AI has the capability to reduce the burden onto the user. So moving from banking to a different industry, AI has increasing impact, for example, to the insurance industry, which I work in myself. May I invite Mel from FWD Insurance to share a bit about how AI is impacting his industry?
Okay. So actually, insurance is an old and highly regulated industry. So even today, customers are faced with time-consuming paperwork and bureaucracy when getting a claim, for example, reimbursed or signing for a new insurance policy. So having said that, we are now starting to see a global push by insurance companies to augment technological capabilities so that we can do a business faster, cheaper, securely, and more securely, of course. So the industry right now, the insurance is definitely ripe for AI disruption. So customers expect to be able to interact with companies through modern technology. So like, for example, right now, we are building a chatbot, which definitely will help to have the customer experience, to have a better customer experience, because definitely many customers right now already have their own phones, making them which make them a natural next step in customer interaction. So in order to truly be effective, chatbots must have a natural language processing, which AI is the one who's doing all those things, and sentiment analysis, so they can understand what customers are really asking. So another thing that we are working is on the marketing and underwriting. So insurance is a competitive market, so a strong marketing strategy is really vital. So traditionally, insurance companies use blanket methods like cold calling customers, but right now, with the use of AI, so we are expecting customers are expecting a personalized sales tactics. So what AI is doing is pulling all those customer data, having a customer 360 to create their own profile, their full profile that can be used to offer relevant insurance products that they need for their customer preferences also. So apart from that, insurance definitely is always being driven by data, and it has a huge effect on the company's bottom line and satisfaction of the customer. So without this good data, I would say AI will be useless or meaningless, because definitely AI will really depend on the data. So right now, I would say that many insurance companies already are going into this kind of direction. Gone are the days are those traditional insurance companies doing a lot of paperwork, but mostly right now they are doing a lot of digital processing and relying on the AI, machine learning, but of course with a good foundation of data. So that's my take for that, Andy.
Thank you, Mel. Totally agree what you said. The insurance industry is now being disrupted in a big way with AI. From frictionless customer experience to totally digital experience to streamlining back office claims processing, RPA, and fraud detection. I think one of the key challenges of traditional insurance companies going digital is the pace of digital transformation. Obviously, new virtual insurance companies that are being set up around this region, they're digital from day one. And I think to give an example, for traditional insurance companies, you don't want to be left behind. To give an example, how we solve this digital transformation and the pace of transformation at Prudential or PruLife UK is that we have a very fast-paced innovation process that takes great ideas and turn them into go live innovation within a week or so. That's true. We go live within a week or so. And this is through a well thought out infrastructure with CI/CD pipelines and digital ecosystem app that allows us to easily plug in new capabilities and launch immediately into existing apps. This is how it's allowed a potential to innovate at speed. I think, even young startups are finding hard to catch up. So for the challenge for traditional companies, either banks or insurance companies, how do we transform, how do we transform ourselves fast enough so that, we'll be faster than those who started virtual? This is very important for traditional companies. Now, let's move on to another question. We talked about engaging customers and so forth, and there's a lot of applications to AI to not just insurance, but banking, especially AI's ability to engage customers more progressively. Lowell, your work in the World Bank Group has some of these aspects of engaging customers. Could you share some insight to this topic?
Sure. Thanks, Andy. I think, it's an interesting topic because, if you look at, as I said, if you look at the kinds of problems that I'm trying to solve with clients around the world, it is more around, so how do we use these innovatively, but contextually, which I think is really important, and also building trust, because, I think it's a combination of all of these things, because, and I heard the mention earlier to say, but tell the client about the technology in the back end. Sometimes that can be good and it can be bad, because they start to Google things and suddenly you're answering questions which you may not have had before. So I think the problem, the way in which we're trying to solve this, say, so what problem am I solving first and foremost? How do I make sure that the problem I'm solving and the way in which I'm solving it is entirely ingrained in the customer's current digital life or current journey, because that takes care of some of the questions that you may have. So we're looking from that perspective. Now we're looking at it from the perspective, as I said, in the SME space or in those spaces, to how we can start to create contextually, and how we can, in terms of whether it be conversational banking or contextual commerce, how we can bring that all together to create an experience that ultimately gets customers to use digital, or to use the digital enablers, which then helps our business, helps the client business from a efficiency perspective, from a reduced cost to serve perspective, from increasing the potential products per customer to be used. So I think certainly the clients that I'm dealing with, it's in early stages, because we have to convince them why it's a good idea. And in essence of time, what has changed globally is that customers are now no longer prepared to pay for the institution's inefficiency. They're prepared to pay for their own inefficiency. So if I come and I say, well, I've got this great AI platform, I say, or I've got this great mobile banking, I say, so you're supposed to have it. What's the problem? So I think we've got to try and figure out that sort of balance, is to say what's important for us is not necessarily for the customer, but it's integral in the customer's journey. So we're trying to figure out with the clients that I'm dealing with how to create this connection.
Very interesting, Lowell. Let me see if the other panel members have similar experience in terms of their digitization journey. Trying to balance digitalization efforts with customer needs, providing them with new functionality, but not at an expensive cost.
Yeah, I can comment on this as well.
Okay.
So the way we do, so we work on the corporate side. So our clients are companies. So the way we work is we identify a few customers that we can work on directly on, let's say, new products that they might be interested. So it could be providing their data, providing analysis, providing forecasting on some of their spending. And so we spend a lot of time with them trying to really understand what they want, and we do POCs together. So we do work hand in hand, and we make sure that whatever needs is reflected in the product that we want to launch. So with this COVID, we actually spend a lot of money on digitalization and providing more digital services. So we have more and more APIs for the client to connect to. We have also more and more dashboards that the client can see their whole journey. So really that trying to identify some of the customers which are willing to be part of the journey was one of the biggest success of this time. And having that combined journey, if you want, helped us a lot designing some of the products to serve them better. So this is how we approach it as well.
Definitely leveraging things like API, making it a lot easier for your partners to go on to, as you say, your digital journey, expanding the ecosystem. Those are super great approaches. Anyone else has anything to add? If not, I'll move on to another question. So we're kind of towards the end of the panel discussion. Maybe let me bring out one particular aspect, which is, and it's used very often, is you're using AI for automated fraud detection. We talked about building trust, so obviously, one big area is we have to make customers sure that their money is safe, and as well as the banking system or financial system is not easily hacked through various fraud methods. So this is very important, use of AI. We talk about that a lot. Let's get a bit more insight and detail. Who would like to share? May I invite maybe Mel? Well, would you have something to share about AI and fraud detection?
Yeah, of course. Okay, so fraud has long been a major issue for financial institution companies. So with the increase in the number of transactions happening across the organization or across the globe, the threat for financial fraud increased too. So artificial intelligence or AI has popped up as a powerful technology that has the potential to prevent financial fraud. So in leveraging AI for fraud prevention, it helped companies actually to enhance internal security and in streamlining business processes. So by driving improved efficiency, AI has emerged as a major technology actually for preventing any financial frauds. So AI, machine learning applications, which are all rule-based algorithms, are there to analyze patterns and predictive analytics to block any fraudulent transactions, which help finance companies in preventing any financial frauds. So for me, AI is actually redefining the way companies do fraud detection these days. So before AI has emerged, so the fraud prevention systems only relied on a set of patterns or analyzed only restricted fraud patterns. So there are a lot of limitations. But things have changed now, all thanks to AI. But by combining all these supervised learning algorithms trained on the data that you have with unsupervised training or learning, so it helps to gain better understanding on the customer's behavior, and making it a good option for the effective detection of new or emerging fraud attacks. So it actually helps to complete, AI helps to complete any data analysis within milliseconds and detects any complex patterns. So with the use of AI right now, it actually has a critical part in detecting fraud. It's more of preventing any fraud instead of just getting all those fraud. So it actually removes any time-consuming tasks and enables fraud analysts to focus on critical cases. So with the use of AI, using all those scoring techniques, it combines the strength and supervised learning. So it helps reduce any false positives, so decreasing the friction in customer experience. So it still boils down to customer experience. So really, for me, AI has a very critical part in terms of detection of preventing of fraud, which also has a chain effect in terms of your customer experience.
Thank you so much, Mel. I think we have maybe 1 minute left or 2 minutes. Any other sharing from the panel?
Well, I would just say that, we are looking obviously at our, as part of our risk transformation and having real-time capability in terms of fraud detection. This is something where I would like the bank to push the envelope and see if we could partner, for example, with some of the telcos. Because when you look at data, a lot of the fraud happens at home, right? So somebody will break into your home network and then perform a bunch of transactions. So telcos have today the ability to also monitor any deviation from the norm in your behavior. So if we can find a way between the bank's capability and this partnership with the telco, then we're going to be looking at providing safety in one of the most unsecure environments.
Very good point. Thank you for that. And with that, I think our time is up. I'd like to thank all the panel members for their precious time and valuable sharing, and for the organizer for giving us the time to speak today. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.